Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 49 of the RocknRoll Beer Guy Podcast. This episode is brought to you by One Effing Inc. Pick up your official RocknRoll Beer Guy Podcast t-shirts, hoodies, you name it. If you go to their website, oneeffinginc.com/effingradart, you can select a type of shirt. You can select if it's a hoodie. You can select the color of the material or the ink, and they'll ship it right to your door. That website, once again, the number one, EFFININK.com/EFFINRADART. In this episode, I talked to the band Full Service. They are a band from Austin, Texas that is currently in the middle of their hop-along tour where they're performing at many breweries across the nation. We met up at Iron Triangle Brewing in downtown LA and talked about their tour, their music, and we talked a lot about beer. They even shared a crazy story about following 311 on tour until they finally took notice. They even have their own podcast, The Whale Pod. Make sure to check that out. Check out their music or catch them on one of their shows. It was a great time talking to them, and I hope you enjoy. Cheers. Welcome, everyone, to the RocknRoll Beer Guy Podcast. I'm sitting here with Full Service.
All right.
Introduce yourself, guys. Come on.
All right. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming all the way to the brewery. We're actually live in Iron Triangle Brewing, which is something I haven't done ever.
First time?
First time.
Nice.
I usually just have people come to the studio or I'll go to them, But
Yeah.
This is the first time we've joined here at Iron Triangle in downtown LA.
All right.
Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
I am sitting to your left, and my name is Hogue. And sitting to my left...
I am Hogue's brother, Bonesaw.
Nice.
I am in some relation in space and time, not blood, to both of these men. My name is Smell.
And it is my first time meeting any of you. And my name is Flipper.
So collectively, we are the band Full Service.
You're going to have to explain the names.
We can do that. I'll tell you right off the bat, this is kind of odd because we have our own podcast called The Whale Pod.
Yes.
So this feels like we're doing a Whale Pod with you as a guest. But it's really RocknRoll Beer Guy with us as a guest. It's
Honestly, I wasn't sure what was happening until you explained it just then.
Feel free to host the show.
No,
I'll answer questions.
Over.
Whose podcast is this?
Wait, are we in an episode of Whose Podcast Is This?
We are in an episode of Whose Podcast is this?
Oh, my God.
Do you really want... We can explain our names if
Yeah,
you'd
that'd
like.
be cool. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I know, obviously, Hogue and Bonesaw are not your birth names.
Right.
I mean, unless this is some kind of weird, band thing where you don't want people to know your real identity, like the band
no.
Ghost or something.
It's okay. Maybe there was a time where we didn't want people to know, but I think the cat's out of the bag.
Cat's out of the bag.
But no, we don't have... Our parents aren't that strange, so they wouldn't have named us those names. My real name is David, and Bonesaw's real name is Tim. But Hogue came about... my mother was a counselor at a camp when I was in high school, like for inner city kids. And
she ran the camp.
She ran the camp. I was a counselor. That's right. And instead of our names, me and my little troop, I said, all right, let's put our favorite food on our name tag today. And so I was eating a lot of hoagies at the time, sub sandwiches. That's what they call those in Philadelphia.
You'll note the Philadelphia Eagles hat. That's the tie-in with Philadelphia Hoagies.
Well, I know them as Hoagies, too, but from being born in Jersey.
Oh, there you go.
Northeast.
He's a Wawa guy, then.
So that's my story.
Yeah, and Bonesaw comes from the Spider-Man movie circa 2003.
Bonesaw's ready!
Got it. That's exactly it. So we had a song on our album that came out right after that movie came out.
Okay.
And the intro sounds like a saw that's buzzing. And Hogue said, hey, man, you should say that, just like Macho Man Savage does in the movie, before we play this song. And so I started doing that, doing exactly what you just did. And then it started to be tied to me as if I was saying I was ready.
Gotcha.
And then it took on a life of its own within our band. Everything became something Saw. Like his dog was Dog Saw. Tour Saws. Fans are still called Fan Saws.
Our mother's name is Mom Saw.
Yeah.
Dad Saw.
I love it.
So anything, and some particular fans will have, Cat Saw, or, it's kind of like you're coming into the family, you get a Saw name.
Gotcha.
At least for a period
I mean,
of
I
time.
legitimately call her Mom Saw, like at his wedding. I'm like, oh, hey, Mom Saw. And like, I mean, we often stay there when we're up in that area. And I mean, it's just,
Very cool.
yeah, it's interesting.
Beer saw.
Beer saw.
Beer saw.
Wow, you could grab that. It's like grabbing a domain name. Nobody else can get it after you get it.
That's awesome. How about smell?
Smell comes from my birth name is Elliot.
Okay.
And then in middle school and high school, it was Smelliot. Smell was kind of like
Smelly it?
yeah. And Smelliot changed to Smell. It started off kind of like as a bully. Like,
I was
oh,
going to say,
hey,
it sounds like a
Smelliot.
bully thing.
Yeah, but then I kind of embraced it and became Smell just as my nickname. And then I joined a band that was like, they already had nicknames. Like, oh, sweet. Well, I kind of come in with a nickname already. And yeah.
Cool.
That's how
Yeah.
you take the power back, man. If someone's calling you something you don't like,
Yeah.
you just call yourself that.
Like, oh, word.
All right.
Yeah. Hey, that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah,
For
Smelliot
sure.
ain't that bad.
How about
And
Weber?
Weber is actually just my name.
Awesome.
It's my last name.
Cool.
But it sounds enough like a nickname that just kind of want to go with. Gone by it for years and years. My parents actually call me Weber at this point.
He has different offshoots of web. Like, will be I call him spider web, or sometimes I just go to burr, just like cut off the web altogether.
Just burr?
Just
Webby,
burr.
Webby.
Webster,
Webman.
Webmans.
Currently
World
on his tour,
Wide
he's
Web.
actually he's been kind of looking very CIA-ish on the now right now, so he's CIA Web
Oh, okay. You have the aviator sunglasses.
glasses.
Yeah, I got some nice glasses and this big, thick green coat that looks like army issue almost.
Okay. Okay.
Sort of a nondescript baseball cap that he puts on. It all looks very CIA agent in South America handling assets kind of thing.
I dig it. I dig it. It. The CIA won't fuck with you then while you're out on the road either. They won't.
I just put my finger to my ear and I shoot.
Yeah, they'll look at you and just be like, tip of the hat. Gotcha. So for those that are listening and aren't fully aware, you guys are on the road and you're doing the what's
It's called the Hoppin' Along Tour.
hopping along tour, and you're going and playing shows at breweries.
Yeah.
I found out about this a little too late to get you guys booked to play here, but it would have been cool to get you guys here at Iron Triangle. But tell us a little bit, like, where'd the concept come from? Obviously, you love beer and you love music,
Yeah.
but how did it all come about?
Well, basically, we've been touring for a long time, and we've always been sort of known for trying different things, different kinds of tours. We've done in the early days, we did our own, sort of regular club tours, and those were just kind of, earning our stripes, I guess.
Sure.
And then we started doing some support dates with other bands. Then we did a thing called the Takeover Tour, which is actually how we got to know 311, which is how we got to this podcast with you.
Yep.
But we did actually 10 years ago this summer, we did a tour following their entire summer tour with Snoop Dogg and playing illegal shows in the parking lot at every single night. And we had a generator, and we had 8,000 demo CDs, and we a documentary crew, and we just went out and played until we got shut down. And
It's a good
so
idea.
it was great. And
Yeah.
and there's a great documentary about it called Takeover that you can watch online. It's on Vimeo.
Okay.
So it's a great doc about it, and then that led ultimately to 311 taking us on tour with them for real a lot, and doing some tours with them, and doing some cruises and stuff. And after
you guys did the 311 cruise, right?
yeah, we did 4 of them with them, which
Jesus.
were great. So partially that opened up the door to us to a lot of national fans in different pockets around the country that we wouldn't have seen otherwise. And so we started doing some acoustic touring where we in 2011 where we pitched called the 20 Tour. And it was like house concerts before house concerts were a thing at the time. And it was, we would come and play. It was $20 per person. We capped it at 20 people. We played 20 songs. It was a whole 20 theme. And we made good money. And we could go at any of these places where people who originally saw us, generally on these cruises,
Okay.
would have us come. We'd play great shows, at anywhere around the country as long as there was one fan. And it became a really cool way to go all around the country and make money and not have to worry about ticket sales and stuff and all that stuff.
Sure, sure.
So we really expanded that over the next 6 years and grew it to a lot more than 20 people, a lot more profitable. And we turned that into making that our own festival in Austin called the Full Service Circus, where people came to Austin, and we had a weekend of stuff with us. And we've had 3 of those. Anyway,
Nice.
fast forward to now, where we needed to kind of adapt and adjust with a new theme. And we were doing our own podcast and kicked around, I think it was Hope kicked around the idea of, doing a tour of craft breweries, kind of like our house concerts, where the breweries would generally be recommended by fans in that town. So like, hey, what's your favorite brewery in a particular town?
Gotcha.
And then try to get gigs at those places, thinking that the brewery crowd is kind of in our current target audience, you know, and like Hogue has said, you know, people who are generally open-minded and interested about trying craft brews are the kind who would be interested in, like, you know, trying indie bands, you know, stuff like us. And so we're just trying it out, and at each one we're doing a video feature about the brewery or one particular beer that hopefully our fans, and also just fans of beer, will eventually catch on to and follow along, kind of as a unique look at breweries from a musician's.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the idea, and it's funny because when you're a band on tour, at least for me, part of it is going to tour all these breweries anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you might as well do something with it, as opposed to just let me just show up and get drunk and find out what's going on.
Yeah, it was a good plan that we have some free beers at about, what time is it? 3:15 in the afternoon. That's,
I have no idea what time it is.
Yeah. Great plan.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Yeah. So, okay. So what got you guys into beer? Like, why did you choose doing breweries? Like, are you guys really big beer geeks?
I went through this is Hogue speaking. I went through a pretty big beer geek era about 5 or 6 years ago. Actually, the guy who shot the documentary, The Takeover Tour, we were just talking about, where we followed 311, he was a big beer guy. He still is. And all during that tour, whenever we'd, you know, wrap up the day and go get some beers, it would always be like, you know, the most adventurous beer that we would get would be like New Belgium Blue Moon or something.
Oh boy!
And he was like, he would just look at us, shake his head.
Yeah, he was disappointed with us that whole.
Guffaw,
we got a lot of education on that tour from
so he really kind of whipped us into shape and was like, "There's a whole world out there, boys."
Yeah.
And hanging out with him more, I started. And this is pre-Weber, so I'm sure he has his own story. But Smell and I, hanging out with him more, I think expanded our palate. And then I subscribed to Beer Magazine or something. And then my mother got me a book called Fermenting Revolution, which I thought was a really clever title, playing off Fomenting Revolution. But it was all about, you know, the rise in micro breweries and home brewing, and that's when I sort of started to learn to speak the language a little bit, and
started learning what a BBL is.
Oh crap! See, I don't even know what that is. So I only went so far, you know. But we got our foot. We dipped our feet in. We're about at the waist now, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
None of us are home brewers or anything.
Okay.
You know, but for me, it was because for that festival I referenced, the Full Service Circus, we needed. It was all about local food and alcohol and stuff. So I started to develop some relationships with local craft beers in Austin. And then we would sometimes, like Austin Beer Works and Solid Rock or South Austin Brewing, a bunch of others that would sponsor our events. And we started doing some shows at their breweries, too, which also kind of laid some groundwork. I don't actually really drink beer until this tour.
But also, like, there's, you know, we got a taste of, like, an alternate way to play a show rather than doing clubs all the time.
Sure.
We got a taste of, like, a different way to do that with those house concerts that he was talking about, which we've been doing for years and years at this point. And it was just really refreshing to start touring and not having to, like, deal with the typical long day at the venue type thing.
Sure.
And so a brewery sort of struck us as another alternative venue where it's just easier to deal with. There's something less pain in the ass about it than a club.
I'm sure it has the free
Plus
beer.
There's
has
great
nothing,
beer. Yeah, and the free beer has
Did he mention that there's free beer involved?
Yeah.
Then also,
I think you guys are geniuses, is what I think.
similar to the cruises, like-minded people come to the cruise from all over the country. Like breweries are good at getting like-minded people from the community to a certain spot that maybe as a band we wouldn't be able to access just coming to a town like San Clemente or something. Like we go to San, we don't know anybody there, but then we go play the brewery, and we meet a lot of people that we wouldn't have been able to meet if we had played a bar there, because they wouldn't. It's not as a destination as a brewery is. Just to have a beer. Like people go out to a bar to see a band, but now if you want a good beer, you go to a brewery to
exactly
really enjoy.
Yeah, like there's such a big difference between a bar and a brewery. It's like so we've done like early in our career, we did like touring of bars and stuff. Before we could get into clubs and play there, we were touring bars.
Yeah.
And looking back, it's like, why would we have done that? Breweries have been there the whole time. But now there's more and more.
Well, there's there's definitely a lot more of them now, which is kind of, it's becoming kind of a detriment. Like, there's a lot of murmuring going around in the beer forums and stuff like that, where a lot of people believe that the bubble has burst. There's too many breweries. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with that. I think the more breweries, the better. But I get it financially. A lot of places are having to shut down because people will come in, they'll have one beer, and then they'll leave and go to another brewery to have one beer. Instead of sitting here and having 4 or 5 beers, they're only giving us $7, $8, whatever, and then going into another place because they want to try everything. And as a business, that doesn't really work out as a plan.
Do you guys have food here?
We do not. Here we have snacks and stuff, jerky, nuts, and then there's food trucks that come on like the heavy days.
Because that, like, kind of like we're doing, like a partnership between band and brewery. Like, if you can incorporate music, beer, and food all in the same spot, people won't need to leave.
Yeah, they won't need to leave to go find food somewhere. Because that's the other thing too. After like 2 or 3 beers, you're going to want to eat something.
You need to eat something.
Yeah.
Although you guys are in this is like kind of the arts district coming back around.
Yeah.
There's probably a couple other breweries in this general area people can
walk
to.
Yeah. There's
other
a little
places like Hangar 24 where we played. It's like really out in the middle of nowhere in Redlands, California. So it seemed like people showed up to that show and stuck around.
Yeah, because there's nowhere else to go.
Right. In the case of Iron Triangle, there's other places they can go.
Yeah, there's so much around here, restaurants and bars and clubs and other breweries. There's a bus actually that goes around town and drops you off at each of the breweries. You can hop. It's called the hop on, hop off. Yeah. And you get on, you just try everything. You come out here on a Saturday and try every brewery.
Yeah.
How did you get into beer, Weber? Because you didn't tell your story.
So I'm the freshest face in this band.
Look at that fresh face.
Look at this thing.
I think literally.
I take pride in that actually.
I'm 14 and a half years old. No, I've been in the band for 2 years now, and so by the time I met these guys, it was kind of past their personal brewing revelations. And I actually, since I was pretty much even before I was 21, I was kind of into the craft beer scene. I'm from New Mexico originally.
Okay.
And started homebrewing with friends during college, and also was just luckily introduced, instead of so much into like the college party scene, more into like an actual dedicated appreciation of beer scene when I was young. So luckily kind of had my days where there was a lot of Keystone Light consumed. Because that's what you do.
Yeah.
Every once in a while.
Even myself, man. I'm the RocknRoll Beer Guy or whatever, and I work at a brewery, but man, if I haven't had at least 400 Miller Lights or Miller High Life, it's happened. I can't do anything about that.
Yeah. Being from Texas, too, like, I see Lone Star in the store sometimes, and I'm like, I got to do Lone Star.
Yeah, I was telling Weber the other day, I don't know if you remember this, but when I was, Bonesaw and I went to see Tom, is his name Tom? Sam Caglione from
Dogfish. Yeah.
Talk in Austin. And he brought these 2 guys from Beer Advocate with him.
Oh, yeah.
But we noticed, so as the night went on, these 3 dudes had clearly been around Austin all day visiting places because they were pretty lit up by the time they were doing their talk. But they were still very charming and like on point, but you could tell they were really loose. So I'm looking at what Sam's drinking throughout this like 45-minute talk. Started with like, one of these fancy glasses with obviously looked like a great beer. Kind of kept doing that. The last beer he was drinking at the end of the night was a Lone Star Tallboy, which I thought was fantastic. Isn't that great?
That's fantastic.
And they addressed that issue that you're talking about. There are too many brewers has it popped, and they were in agreement that it's getting that way. But he was just like in his sort of wasted way. It was just like you have to not suck.
It's like you just have to not support every local brewery just because they're local and you really want to dig them and they're micro and everything like that. That's awesome, but you just can't support a beer that sucks.
That's a very good Sam impression.
I've been working on it.
That's a very good impression.
I listen to the podcast, does he? Maybe he does.
He might. It's fine. Love
bad.
you, Sam.
It was
No, I'm just this is. Just paying tribute to his
No, that was well done. That was well done. Yeah,
I remember being on that podcast. What was that?
Similar to bands, you have,
I've had the fortunate, luck of being able to hang out with that dude a couple times, and the guy drinks.
Yeah,
the guy drinks a lot. Yeah, he's a cool dude. I when I was still working for Cigar City, they would send me everywhere, like every Great American Beer Fest, Extreme Beer Fest out in Boston, all these things, and he was at every one of those. And at first I met him because he just came to my booth. He was like, "Oh, Cigar City, I've heard of you guys." I'm like, "Here's a beer," and then he gave me a 120.
Oh dear.
The 120-minute IPA, and he's like, I took a sip. He's like, "No, you need to chug it." I'm like,
"Really?"
But I'm working.
He said you need to chug it.
Yeah, because he knew that it's That's
hilarious.
We're brewers, and we have to do dumb stuff to each other. Like the Cigar City guys, Justin Clark and Wayne, and all those guys. Whenever you hang out with them, they want you to take shots of Fireball.
Wow.
Or the worst thing they could even come up with, like Malort from Chicago. I don't know if you've ever had Malort. It's this liquor called Jepson's Malort. It started in Chicago, and now it's being made in Tampa, but I describe the flavor as formaldehyde. Yeah, it's like they don't even tell you what it is. It's herbal liqueur, but I don't know what it's made of. It just tastes like poison. If you YouTube actually Malort face, it's clips of people's faces when they take the first shot of Malort in their life.
Good.
And it's the worst. Like, it's the terrible, terrible flavor. I think there's some kind of grapefruit rind in it or something. It's just so bitter, and it doesn't go away. That's the other thing.
Try to book a show up
Fellas,
there.
It looks like we're getting us a case of Malort and having a game night.
Hey, we'll try to do a show there when we do our Midwest run.
Yeah,
and Cigar City, too, maybe.
Yeah. I can definitely put you in touch with Cigar City.
That would be great, because I'm working. The next leg of this is in March in Florida.
Okay.
And I got Rock Brothers. I got this one. I can't remember the name right now, but also Fort Myers Brewing. I think First Magnitude.
Nice.
And then Cigar City is obviously one of the big ones.
We've had Cigar City, haven't we?
I don't have it
fellas?
in there, so.
Well, I'll make the connection. I'm still in touch with most of those guys, even though it's now they've been purchased by Oscar Blues Holding.
Oh yeah.
Most of the guys that I knew are still there, so I think it should
That'd be great.
What's the tie-in with them and 311? They are a regional brewer of one of their beers, because wasn't their label
They were collaborating with the Rock Brothers and 311 on the Amber Ale.
Okay.
And then the new one that they did is all Rock Brothers.
Okay.
We went to the Hive yesterday and sat down with Peanut and did our video about their Beautiful Disaster.
Oh, nice.
Yesterday, and we did a podcast for our podcast with him as the guest.
Oh, very
So
cool.
he was talking about Cigar City and all that stuff as well, and Rock Brothers.
That's awesome. Yeah, I loved working there, but I've heard from the people that are still there that it's a different vibe now. Since the Oscar Blues came over, everything's a lot more, I don't want to say corporate, but
well, they're a much bigger corporation.
Yeah.
It's indeed be a little more corporate.
Everything's more streamlined. That's the word I was looking for.
They have a spot in Austin now as well. Oscar Blues does.
Oh yeah.
When you go there, it's kind of in this kind of brewery as well, in this industrial part of town, and you notice that immediately when you go in. It's like this is clearly like the most corporate of the 6 or 7 breweries that are in this spot. So.
Yeah, I mean they just recently rebranded all of the Cigar City cans to make everything more streamlined as well, so everything looks more uniform.
Yeah.
People aren't reacting positively to it, because I honestly don't. I don't hate it. If that would have been the way they launched, I would have been okay with it. But the fact that they launched and every can had a different personality, like the Highlight IPA had the Highlight player, and this Invasion had a pirate on it. I'm like, that's cool. But now it feels like now it's more they're just. I guess I keep saying streamlined, but that's the word.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the parallels with music and the beer stuff is just it's there for everything. It's the same thing as when like a punk band or any band signs with a major label. Back in the day would have been that. That doesn't really happen anymore. But they're hardcore fans. The selling out thing.
Oh sure.
You accuse them of selling out, but at the same time, that means everybody else gets to hear their music, or they
Exactly.
Or as Lars from Metallica says, "You're damn right. We sold out. We sold out every show since 1985.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels between music and beer. That's kind of why I started this podcast. It's just because there's so many things in common, including I was mentioning. I've said this before on the show, but the Great American Beer Fest, when you go, it feels like an Ozfest type of deal.
Yeah.
Where you walk in, there's a giant, like the same exact, mesh fence thing with all the T-shirts of all the breweries.
Sick.
And you just like go buy it, like, I want the Cigar City shirt. It's like, I'm like, this is a concert.
Yeah, well, see, you referenced the festivals, and that was another thing that we're hoping this can lead to, because for whatever reason, our band has had some trouble getting into those big festivals, even ACL Fest. We've done some little festivals and the cruises and some other stuff, but these big music festivals is how a lot of bands are breaking right now, and it's a lot of like the agencies are really kind of controlling who gets in. We'll take our big band and you get our 3 others, whatever.
But we've never been part of it. We've never been involved with a booking agency or any management. I mean, it's all been really self-run, self-contained. So
we're thinking maybe we become the band that plays these great beer festivals. I mean, some of them already have music, some of them don't. Like Spring Beer Fest doesn't have music, but maybe if we kind of become known over time as the band that's doing these brewery things, or through the relationships we might make, we can kind of do those festivals and do it our own way instead of trying to knock on Coachella's door.
Sure, yeah, and there's big festivals. I mean, Funky Buddha out in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, they have their own festival. They have the Maple Bacon Coffee Porter Day, which my band played at one time.
Nice.
And it's just getting bigger and bigger. There's 8,000 people, whatever, showing up. So that's definitely something to look into. I mean, Sam, your buddy Sam from Dogfish, he loves music, and he was doing concerts and stuff like that in Delaware, and they were going to make a big touring festival with Funky Buddha because they did a collaboration. But I think that fell through the cracks. I don't think that's coming through. But
I reached out to Funky Buddha about the March tour. They got back to me, but I think the date didn't work, or they don't have music at the time. I don't know. I'll have to take a look.
Is Funky Buddha a reference to Cypress Hill? Funky Buddha.
It's possible.
Leader of the upstyle second wicked.
Yeah, I hope it is.
I think so. They are also very, music friendly.
Yeah.
I know Ryan and Casey, the original, the owners, proprietors, founders, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, they're all big music fans, and so that's possible for sure.
Oh, he did actually. Here's what he said. Thanks for reaching out. We don't normally have music at our production brewery, but our sister location, Funky Buddha Lounge and Brewery, has live music. Shoot an email to their manager. Haven't done that yet. Need to do that.
You're in an episode of our podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So reading emails on here.
Well, you referenced Funky Buddha, and I would like to try to get...
Well, the lounge is cool. It's a smaller spot for sure.
That's good for us.
But it's the original spot. It's where it was a homebrew shop. So you go there and buy grains. You could buy hops. You could buy stuff like that, yeast and whatever. But, it's still packed, especially if you end up doing one of their anniversary parties or anything like that. Those are super packed every time I've gone there. But yeah, going back to talking about the bubble bursting and you guys are saying that you're about waist deep in on the beer situation.
Yeah.
I've already drowned.
Yeah.
I'm not even drinking beer right now. I'm actually on a break. I've taken, I went on this weird roller coaster ride of I'm going to drink the craziest beer I could find, and barrel-aged Imperial Stout that's 25% alcohol, or this crazy sour that they just fermented in their backyard in a cup. I've tried it all. And then now, and it kind of went back down. I started another podcast called Let There Be Heels. It's about pro wrestling. And the crew brings shitty beer like Tecate. And it took me a while before I'm like, all right, give me one of those. And now I realize I'm just pounding 5 of them because they're not doing anything to me. They're just water. It's refreshing. So I told myself to just stop because it's too much beer. Just maybe stick to gin for a while.
Stick to gin?
Yeah, just stick to gin for a while.
Before we started, you heard the name of our podcast, The Whale Pod?
Yes.
And you were talking a little bit about, were you one of these whale hunters? That sounds like what you were talking about.
I dabbled.
No, you sound like man, that sounds like an extreme whale hunter then.
Yeah, I dabbled. No, if anybody's listening that's not aware, when there's a beer that's hard to find, when they're produced in small quantities, 300 bottles or something like that, they call them whales. And so that's why I asked them, is the whole whale pod because you guys love beer so much?
Yeah. It will. I mean,
our band's logo is a whale on wheels.
Yeah.
There are no coincidences, I'll tell you that. So
just go with it.
Yes, sir.
You want to get in these beer festivals? Be like, yeah, that's all what it's all
we're
about.
We're searching for the whales, the beers.
Yeah, I used to hunt. Like, if I heard that there was something, like Pliny the Elder in Florida, Pliny the Elder over here is a commonplace beer. Like, people, it still sells out every time it comes out. But in Florida, Pliny the Elder was this, like, magical creature that no one could ever get their hands on. So, of course, my mission was, let's get some Pliny the Elder in Florida. And I went deep, man. I mean, I started a little, like, thing called Miami Beer Scene, where people can find beer in Florida and post events, post maps of like, okay, these are the bars that are carrying craft beer in Miami. Because when I was there was no craft beer. It was just Corona and Yingling and whatever. And then little by little it started showing up. So I got super involved right away, like started talking to the distributors. I started volunteering at all the beer festivals. And little by little just made my way in until Cigar City picked me up and like, hey, you're going to work here now.
Nice. Way to go.
It's funny you mentioned Pliny the Elder, because that was one of the first that our friend from the movie who shot our movie told us about.
Yeah, it's...
You got to find... And then Peanut, I was looking at his Instagram today, because they were just... I didn't make it yesterday, but anyway, he had taken a picture recently of a couple bottles of Pliny. So it's one of those whales,
deal.
I guess.
Yeah, it's a big deal for a lot of people. And honestly, I've had it now since... Because it's kind of... It sells out, but you can still find it here. It's not hard to find. And it's all right. It's good. It's a good diet. It's an IPA. I mean... It's not even a double, I think. I think it's just a regular... They have a double called Blind Pig, which I think is way better.
Really?
And it's less popular. Russian River is the brewery, if you guys weren't aware of that one. But there's a bunch of whales that, and then that's changed completely. Like, it's gone past me now where I don't even care anymore. Like, whales now are like Monkish Beers, which is a small brewery in Torrance, or Wakefield out in Miami. Like, everybody goes crazy for their bottles. Like, so one of the things I brought it up, and I was explaining to you guys that people make a living off of this secondary market stuff. So, like, for example, Wakefield is one of the bigger breweries that's in that world. So every time they release a bottle, they'll do 200 bottles, 300 bottles. People will line up days in advance. I'm not even kidding. My buddy called me up. He's like, I'm in line right now at Wakefield for their next bottle release, which is in 2 months. The bottle release is in 2 months. I'm lined up now because the tickets go on sale tomorrow. I'm like, tomorrow, like at midnight? He's like, no, tomorrow morning. And it's like 4 in the afternoon. Wow. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, but you're just hanging out, bro, having some beers out here in the sidewalk. I'm like, but that's illegal. What are you doing? And then they're just, they're dropping $1,000 to be part of this membership. They're lining up a day in advance to get these tickets, and then they get these 4 or 5 bottles or whatever. I don't know the amount, but then they flip it in the secondary market.
Really?
Yeah, and they'll make double, triple their money back. Yeah, and you can make a living off of this. There's dudes that's literally all they do. They wake up, go to a beer release, buy the full allotment. They call them mules, so they'll bring like their family. They'll bring their aunts, their cousins, and typically a brewery will be like, hey, it's 1 per customer or 2 per customer or whatever. So they're like, oh, no problem. I'll bring 25 people from my family to line up. There's even been dudes that hire homeless guys from the street. Just like, hey, man, here's $20. Stand
Jesus
here
Christ.
And line up and do this thing. And then they just...
Sounds exhausting.
It's so much work. It's so much work.
But it sounds like they also turn it into a party.
They try and turn it into a party, but again, it's illegal. And if the cops come by and then shut that thing down, so
I lost my spot in line because I went to jail.
It's just ridiculous, man. I mean, I've even for fun, I've looked it up because I've been fortunate again that I worked at Cigar City and stuff like that. So a lot of people hooked me up with beers. A lot of these whales were just coming to me at this point. And I would store them away in my fridge, and I see people freaking out online. I'm like, let me check, because I have a bottle of this beer, and I've looked at it, and I've had bottles of beer in my house that are worth $900 on the secondary market. So one beer. It's almost $1,000 for one beer, man.
Real, how good can it
God damn.
be? I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to cuss on this, but that's insane.
No, yeah, you are allowed to curse. Yeah, no, it's crazy. And that was like a real moral quandary for me. I'm like, I shouldn't sell this.
What? Yes, you
but
should.
But holy shit, it's $900.
Yes, that's what I'd be like, what? I should definitely sell this.
I don't care how good it is.
Did you sell? You didn't sell it though. They do?
No. No.
Hey, are there is there anything coming out of Austin or Texas that is making a sort of splash over here, or generating whispers?
I mean, there's always a respect for Jester King.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Jester King. They do really great sours, really cool experimentals, wild beers. So, but that's pretty much it. I don't really know much about Texas beer that I've been. But again, I'm kind of like falling out of the game.
Yeah.
I'm just focusing on this. Keep the brewery going. How about you? Tell me, you guys are from there. You know anything?
Oh man, there's a million. But
for the listener, the band's from Austin, Texas.
One of my favorites is one from a brewery called Independence, and it's called Stash IPA. But sometimes I can't tell if it's just because I really like the purple label.
Okay.
I think it tastes really good, though.
Does it taste like grapes?
It does not taste like grapes, but it does taste delicious.
Okay.
Wow, I don't want to talk crap on it, but I'm not a big fan of that one.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
I think most of Texas, besides breweries like Jester King, you don't get a lot of experimentation or anything that's going to differentiate it in the market nationally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whereas you have, like, your hazy IPAs coming from the Northeast, you got your West Coast style IPAs out here that really, like, kind of set themselves apart. Texas is just still, it's so insular. Texas is its own nation in so many ways. Just ask any Texan.
Yeah.
A tax who put Texas on them. Like, you can sell Texas to Texans.
Sure.
And that's even what the craft brew market does there.
Okay.
It's such a big state that they just want to do, like, simple beers really, really well. And a lot of them do. Like, Stash is a great IPA. 512 IPA is amazing.
512 gives me gnarly hangovers. I swear something's up with their ingredients.
There's something about beers with an area code that don't really work for me. Firestone has their 810 or 810 or whatever it is. I can't drink that stuff.
Breckenridge has one.
Do we have one?
971.
No, we don't have one. 1581 is 1581 is different. That's a year. It's not an area code.
You guys seem to like Zilker Brewing, right? I don't know if that's distributed out here, but
good too. But again, it's just kind of simple.
And again, they have a great looking can. I can't tell if that's half the battle for me.
There's probably someone listening to this right now going, "You idiots! You haven't heard of Schlotzman's Brewery?
Yeah.
They make one beer a year." No, I don't.
The beerists, they're in Austin, so they probably have a lot more beer.
Yeah. Well, how about this? If you guys are listening, send us some Texas beer recommendations.
yeah.
And then we can all, check it out.
Texas beers you can get outside of Texas is the key thing. So what we're saying is there's a lot of great
well,
beers.
even not so, you can make people trade with you.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, because I'm more into that. Like when I travel, I'd like to go to the breweries that are small, like unidentified breweries. I don't go like here. If I were to visit LA for the first time, I wouldn't go to like Angel City,
right?
Because it's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. I don't want to drink that, and also because they're corporate.
That's
beer.
That's a little bit of a thing I've been trying to figure out when setting up these tours is how much do we target within the craft brew community? Which ones do we target? Like the super small ones, the mom and pop ones? That doesn't necessarily work as well for us because we want there to be people there when we play the show. To some degree, we're counting on our fans coming, but also for there being a relatively built-in crowd.
Yeah.
And so far, we've hit that mark. But so for our purposes, Angel City might have been a good one because it's more
probably
popular.
it's a bigger place. There's going to be more people.
Yeah,
like,
but I also
spot.
don't want to just go places that like always have music. I want to go places where it's uncommon. It's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
That would tend to be more like the smaller mom and pop types.
Sure, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with going to the bigger places. Obviously, it's like when you come to Hollywood, you got to do the stupid Hollywood Star Fame walk, the Walk of Fame or whatever they call it, and you got to go take pictures at the sign or whatever.
Yeah.
You got to do it. It's got to be done at least once. That's what I'm saying.
Today.
You got to do it. It's a must. Me personally, I tend to go off the beaten path when I go travel somewhere, and usually end up regretting most of my decisions. Yeah, I'll get lost somewhere or not bring enough money or supplies or whatever. It's never really a good decision. But I don't know. I feel like that's what makes life interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Kind of our dream. We're starting to cook up. One of the dreams for this festival we do, the Full Service Circus I was referencing.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth one It's every other year, and it's this October. And what we want to do is to have a tie-in with this Hoppin' Along tour throughout the year. So we're going to hit every region, and then culminating with the tour, with the circus, is to have one of the days be like a beer fest type day where all the breweries that we have played at throughout the year
come out,
or somehow send us. I heard there's a disposable keg that's an option.
Yeah, they're disposable kegs.
Yeah, so that if we either some people from the brewery come, which would be awesome, great way to visit Austin for them too and be part of the festival. Basically set up like kind of a tasting market, and if people have been watching these videos throughout the year, they can then come have some, Iron Triangle or Hang at 24, Artifacts, all the ones we've been at so far.
Mm-hmm.
And it would just be a really cool, very unique thing. I think you can't, except unless you go to one of these beer fests, you probably can't get. And it kind of has the same sort of trading thing you were just talking about.
Sure, yeah, and a lot of breweries like to trade with other breweries.
Yeah.
So the way they'll work it out is, let's say you're doing it in Texas.
Yeah.
We'll send Jester King some kegs.
Yeah.
And they'll send us some kegs back.
Pretty cool.
And then you can use those kegs for the festival, but then we'll have something over here that nobody else has, the back and forths.
So that could be another way I can make it happen. If
right.
we had an Austin beer sponsoring us, just saying maybe if I worked out with them, so you send kegs to these different breweries, they'll send kegs to you.
Yeah, because a lot of breweries have guest taps. We don't right now, but I'm sure if we made a partnership with somebody, we'd be like, yeah, we're going to feature 3 of their beers here or something like that. Like Cigar City used to do it all the time because they're all beer geeks, so that's how they got to try everything in the world. Let's just trade.
Okay, we'll look into that.
Yeah. But yeah, so what's the goal outside of starting to do beer festivals and stuff like that? I mean, you guys have records that you're putting out, and do you guys want Grammys? What's the plan here? Because we haven't really talked about your music much.
Yeah, I'll take a Grammy.
You'll take a Grammy?
I'll take a Grammy.
I want a Grammy.
I honestly don't even think those. It's just I guess it's like a high school diploma for me. It's it doesn't really make a difference in my life, but somebody's going to want to see it. I'm going to have to be like, yeah, I graduated. Here it is. And treat me legitimately. An
interesting problem the Grammys will have is classifying exactly what genre to put our album in.
Yeah. I was going to say I've heard 3 songs and they were all different.
Yeah, and that's been a problem or a blessing the entire time. Whatever. You don't make art to be in a category, and I don't know. They're weird. So there's one reggae song, and then there's a metal song, and then there's we play mostly acoustic shows, so we're kind of folky. It's just all over the place. So it's really hard to kind of.
The one thing it has in common, it does all seem to fit music you would hear at a brewery or at a beer festival or something. It's all just chill, feel good. Drinking music.
Yeah, drinking music.
Well, even the heavy stuff is very accessible for somebody that's not into heavy music. And the reggae stuff, if you're not into reggae, it samples the reggae for 5 seconds and then goes back into just a strummy kind of folky song. So it's very accessible for kind of ears that are not there to I'm here for a reggae show. You're like, okay, cool, we'll do that for a second and then get back to your beer and it's an interesting mix of sounds.
Yeah, I really dug everything I heard. I heard the reggae song. I heard Lately, which is a more of a folky type song, and I loved it because you guys had different kind of percussion setup. You had what are those things called? Tambourine or marimba on your foot and stuff
that came from an album that was all acoustic with no drums at all.
But
that was the album that launched our whole house concert touring because it was all acoustic.
It was no drums, but one of the things I like, I'm just going to pat myself on the back here, but since you talked about it lately in the percussion, I was thinking the other day, because my friend was watching a documentary on the making of Pet Sounds, and what I really liked about what Pet Sounds was doing, the Beach Boys album, was there's not really a drum set on that album. I mean, there is somebody back there at a drum set, but usually it's just hitting some snare hits. Uh-huh. But he did, with the drum section of these arrangements, it's just layers of percussion playing together. It's not a drum set with one dude playing all these things. It's 5 people doing something that create a drum set. And so that's sort of what that album that Lately was on was all about.
The other night we were at a house party, and I was to a new fan when we did one after the brewery in San Clemente. We went to a house party that night that one of the men was hosting, And I was talking to a new fan. I told him to check out Roaming Dragons, the album that all that's on. And that's how I described it. I was like, yeah, Hogue kind of gets in the room, and I think he uses some spoons and pots and pans, and then like this little tiny, it's not a djembe, it's like, I mean, it's just, but it sounds like a bunch of weird instruments like that, like pots and pans, and not a big like thunderous djembe, but like a nice hand drum. But it sounds, like you're saying, like it sounds like a kit of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't sound like all these pieced together weird things. It sounds like a kit of great weird instruments.
My mama and Bonesaws, but Mom Saw, yeah, she gets me a thing, a percussion toy every year for Christmas. So over the years, I built up this array of things like castanets, like those little kind of
Spain
wooden, those wooden like clam-like things. Slide whistles, different types of jingle bells.
Slide whistles are always
donkey
so
calls. Yeah,
We use it.
a well-placed one can go a long way, though.
It's made its way onto a record.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
and the Vibra Slap is also
job.
a great one.
It was the theme for our circus festival. We had a song called Circus Freak, and it was just perfect.
Nice.
What was it? Do you remember the other one you checked out, out of curiosity?
It was like a live YouTube video I saw. I don't know this. I don't remember the name, but it was a little heavier. It was more rocky.
Yeah.
A little more on like the 311 rock vibe.
Yeah. Our earlier stuff had some more of that influence. As far as like the goal, you mean of the band or of this tour?
Well, the tour itself, I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You guys want free beer. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, the tour is a great idea, and I mean, I get it. It's just, play at breweries, all that stuff. But, like, what's the big goal for you guys?
I think, you referenced you were in a band for 10 years, and it was hard to keep it together, and eventually it ran its course for personal reasons or whatever reasons. But I think the ultimate goal, at least as professionally, is to be able to continue to play and be able to continue to tour and be a band. I mean, at its base level, that's kind of, this is what we've chosen as our career. And
So you want to be like the Rolling Stones in like your 70s?
Yeah, I mean, as long as we love to do it, and so we've been at it for 14 years or so.
Wow.
And,
But the goal is adjusted over time.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I was sure we were going to get Grammys. Now there's no doubt in my mind that we'll never get a Grammy. So like,
no matter how good your next album is, it's
Right.
like
but it's like a brewery. I feel like we're sort of like a really good, well-positioned microbrewery in the neighborhood. You guys, from everything I'm hearing you say and everything that a lot of other smaller breweries say, they don't want to get to that point where everything becomes corporate and less fun and harder to control, and where you lose a lot of control.
Yeah.
And so somewhere at the level of a really well-functioning brewery. That's where we want to.
We'd like to cross over to a point when financially, we're making it's more comfortable than it is currently, to accommodate our newer lives.
Are you comfortable right now? Like, it's not like a struggle? Because, I mean, we did it for 10 years, and we were in the red every single day.
I mean, it's relatively comfortable. I mean, we've been at it a long time. We have a very stable foundation. We have the house, the full-service HQ. We built. I bought it at a good time, so we wouldn't be able to do that now in Austin.
Sure.
But it's been a kind of a stable home base for us. Now we have a recording studio there and like kind of everything we need.
I saw the video of your recording studio. I thought that was pretty cool in the backyard.
sweet.
So and we all. So I think there's a very, and we're all healthy guys. There's not like a substance abuse situation. So it's all very sustainable, and we have to work hard.
Could I get another beer, by the way?
We have to work hard, but it's comfortable. Yes, I would say.
Yeah.
But it's not at a point like, the bigger rock stars where they're not really working.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was curious. Like, do you want to just be at a position where you're partying until you die? Or are you here just to cash a check?
No.
Like, I'm here for the big bucks, but
It's definitely not about the party or the big check.
Okay.
I think that would have ruined us a long time ago if that was the goal.
That's what ruins a lot of bands.
I was watching The West Wing the other day, and these guys hate it when I start a story like that. But I watch The West Wing almost every day, and there was a little scene where this football player is talking about how he's been suspended. He got caught drinking a Pabst, which is not a beer we want to talk about on this podcast necessarily. But They're like, why? He really wanted to play for his high school team on Saturday, but he wasn't allowed. He'd already gotten a scholarship to play at like Penn State. And someone asked him, like, why are you so interested? You have a scholarship to play at Penn State next year. This game is one of the last of the season for your high school. Why do you want to go play? And he's like, that's just what I do on Saturdays. And so it's like, just to do something because that's just what you do. Like, at this point, it's like, this is what we do. Like, what the fuck else am I going to do?
Yeah.
You know, so, and even if it's, even if you're playing a shit show, it really doesn't bum me out too much. Like, in terms of like, there's not that many people there or whatever.
Yeah.
I just want to play really well and do it all justice. So in that way, it's just sort of what we do.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, and honestly, you need to play every show like there is everyone there. Because who knows, man? There's 10 people, but one of those dudes might have a lot of money.
Sure.
One of those dudes might be like, we're going to pay you $1 million to play in my backyard every day. And you probably do it for a couple weeks.
Hey, that happened to a band.
That's $14 million.
Remember when Grupo Fantasmo, band from Austin, Prince saw them play, and then Prince was like, I want you to be my backing band in Vegas. Yeah. And he flew him to Vegas every weekend, and they played for him for several years.
Yeah, that's how it works, man. It's just you're always supposed to give 100% all the time. I'm sorry, I'm looking at your hair. It's great. It's awesome.
Sorry.
That reminds me, though, what you said was we did that whole takeover tour following 311, just sort of not really trying to reach them. It was more about, poaching their fans.
Sure.
But we thought in the back of our minds, like, surely they'll
notice.
They'll notice. They didn't notice. The last show of the tour comes around in Austin, and this guy, Bonesaw, goes to the Apple store to get a hard drive because we were out of footage space. So he gets a hard drive. Who's in the Apple store? Tim Mahoney and Chad Sexton from 311. And it was only, so
that's
how it happened. But he had to be prepared. Okay, here they are. Let's find
it was. I've thought about that a lot. We had to have done all of that we did, leading up to that, to be there, but also to have the reason to talk to them, and then the reason for him to put me in touch with their management. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, and it's such an interesting thing what you did. Like, hey, we've been following you around and playing outside illegally. I'd listen to what you had to say. You know what I mean? Like, oh shit, really? What? All right. Yeah. Like, wait. Should I be
for
worried?
1,700 miles.
But hey, it worked, man. You guys have played the cruises. You guys are doing it. You got your own tour going on. This thing I think is great. You guys want to, for the listeners, want to say what you got, which shows you got lined up coming up?
Yeah. For the rest of this trip, we have we're doing something with Smog City. I guess they have a tap room at Steelcraft in Long Beach.
Oh, that's like 2 blocks from my apartment.
Doing that tomorrow, 6 to 8 p.m.
Okay.
And then that's our last show in the area. We're doing something at NAMM Thursday before taking off.
I'll be in NAMM all weekend.
Thursday, we're playing outside at the John Lennon Bus at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
But then, and then after that, we head up to Vegas. And in Vegas, we're doing a dispensary, actually, turning it like a little bit of a different...
Interesting.
Similar thing at a dispensary because we have a fan who runs this dispensary there.
You guys said no substance abuse.
I know.
No substance abuse.
It's legal now.
It is legal now, and it's not a substance; it's a plant.
And then we go off to Flagstaff at a cool brewery called Dark Sky Brewing. They have a podcast too. It's called Beer Trails. Really cool guys. They were the ones that, out of all the breweries I've contacted so far, who were just like, they got it immediately. They were like, we are all about this. Like your humor, the podcast, the whole thing, the videos. We want to do it. There's a little brewery there.
Cool.
And then Los Alamos in New Mexico, really small one called Bathtub Row Brewing.
Oh, okay.
And a little one called Red Door Brewing in Albuquerque, and then Dual Brewing in Santa Fe. And that'll be it for the first leg. Then we'll go home to Austin for a little while.
All right.
We'll try to hit Florida breweries in March. And then as the country warms up, if all goes as planned, we'll keep trying to cut out 2 or 3 week trips to cover everything.
It's a great plan, man. I really like the idea. I think it's a niche market that not everyone's taking advantage of. Yeah. Like a lot of the breweries end up picking up like cover bands or something, for their shows or their festivals. So this is a great idea, I think.
Thanks.
I recommend anyone listening, check out the music, check out the tour dates. If you're nearby, come have a beer with the guys and hang out.
And also check out the video blogs that we're doing at each brewery, which we're about to shoot one here at Iron Triangle.
Yeah. I saw a clip of one with the cathedral-type brewery.
Back Pew.
Back Pew, there we go.
The place is crazy. It's in Houston.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. I love what you guys are doing. Keep supporting beer. I mean, Lord knows we need it right now. With, like we were saying, the bubble bursting in so many breweries. Like it's becoming that thing where we need to support each other to kind of lift up from the chaos. And yeah, it doesn't hurt if you make good beer. So
Yeah.
Beer lifts us up where we belong.
Yeah, man. Hey,
Cool.
thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks.
How about we try these Iron Triangle beers?
yeah, let's
Do
drink
our
some
own
beer and film some stuff. I mean, you guys want to plug anything else, like your Instagram, Facebook stuff,
sure.
your own podcast again?
Yeah, our podcast called The Whale Pod. Full Service ATX is the Instagram. But and you can see the Hoppin' Along Tour Brewery videos on the YouTube channel, Full Service Band.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for coming out, guys.
Thanks
Thanks for
Eddie.
having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, guys. Cheers.
Lately, in the gardens and the trees, blossoms and the leaves, pollinating bees. Lately, I've been noticing these things. Everything I see, everything it breathes. Ribbon in my soul and skin, sun with the rain when we begin. Carry like a river, all my love. Carry like the wind carries a dove. Hold it in your hand, release it above. Set it up free, baby. Carry like a river, all my love. Carry like the wind carries a dove. Hold it in your hand, release it above. Set it up free, baby. One day, when you long become a ghost, an echo at the coast, a little more than most. I listen through the whipping of the wind. I list the things I've been that I'll never be again. Ribbon in my soul and skin, sun with the rain when we begin. Carry like a river, all my love. Carry like the wind carries a dove. Hold it in your hand, release it above. Set it up free, baby. Carry like a river,